For the hateful few out there in South Africa, I want to ask you a question. If every white person in South Africa and even on the continent of Africa yesterday had packed up bags and left Africa, how does your oppression suddenly end? My name is Dean Haystack, the Dean, and you're listening to The Coffee Conversation. The reason why I'm asking this question is because the hateful few, and I'm saying the hateful few, it's so few. I discuss with people all the time. I go to strangers in the streets. I say, do you hate me because I'm white? I don't hate you because you're not. Do you hate me? They say no. I say, okay, there are problems. What's the problem? And 99% of the time, we have fabulous discussions. Nobody has the courage to say that they hate me, and I understand that. I wouldn't necessarily have the courage to say it, but there's a hateful few, and at the moment, it's sitting at a very low percentage of what I've encountered, and I'm starting to seek those hateful few out to have the discussion with them. They may say that they don't hate me, but everything that they say and do afterwards demonstrates that they clearly do, and that's okay. There's good reason to hate, but there's also fantastic reason to forgive. But I want to ask those hateful few a question, and that is, if suddenly white people didn't exist in Africa, how does your oppression end? How does it suddenly become a better life for Africa? Is it that only evil came to Africa when white people arrived? Now, evil came to South Africa when white people arrived, but also good came to Africa when white people arrived. And it wasn't the only evil. There was much evil even before white people were here, because Africa was not a peaceful utopia. Africa was predominantly, like Europe was, like Asia was in those days, predominantly made up of raiding tribes, because there was a thing in all cultures around the world, or not all cultures, but everywhere around the world, in many cultures, there was a thing called polygamy, as an example, where like the top 10 would get all the women, and the bottom 90 would have to share the balance of the women left over, so they became violent, and they would raid other tribes even just to get women. That happened in Africa as well. That happened in South Africa as well. In actual fact, polygamy is still in South Africa today, and although it's not widespread, that's probably the reason why that isn't manifest in the form of violence. But Africa was not a peaceful utopia. People carried spears not just to defend themselves from roaring lions, but to defend themselves from each other, and some of them, the malevolent ones still here today, use it to attack other people. It's used as a weapon of defense and attack way before white people got here. There was oppression way before white people got here. There were slaves way before white people got here. Shaka Zulu did not become one of the greatest generals in history, I've said it many times, by being nice to the other tribes. He raided them, he murdered them, he colonized them, he took over their territories, he enslaved them, and that's how he grew the Zulu nation. It is not as though some Zulus might say that Shaka Zulu united the people of Africa. He didn't. He colonized the young people and the groups of Africa by destroying those that didn't subject themselves to him. There were kings and rulers around Africa for hundreds and thousands of years before white people ever settled in Africa that were tyrannical. There are stories of cannibalism, and it's widespread around the world. It is not isolated to Europe. I'm not saying that Europeans didn't do this stuff. Europeans did do this stuff. The bottom line is that black or white, we've got red blood. We are just as good and just as evil. So my question still is, if we suddenly picked up yesterday and left Africa, how does your life improve? Do you suddenly have fathers for the children who don't have fathers? Do you suddenly have husbands for the women who don't have husbands? Do the murderers who murder your families, not the white people who are murdering, but the non-white people who are murdering each other as well, more prolifically than white people are murdering black people, do they suddenly stop murdering because white people have left? Do the drug addicts leave? Do the Nigerians stop selling prostitution? Do the corrupt politicians suddenly stop being corrupt because the white people have left? No. It's a single dimensional analysis, and this is not a single dimensional problem. Yes, there's an element of what Europeans brought to Africa that did bring great tragedy to Africa, but there's an element of what Europe brought to Africa that brought great success. Look at the countries in Africa who have no white people residing there, no businesses going there anymore. Those African countries' populations are not allowing us to flock to their country. We are allowing them to flock to ours. Why? Because South Africa, with the European advancements and the benefit to the people of Africa, are what is sought after by the people fleeing the tyrannical black rulership in their own countries. And South Africa is a better place for them. That's why they come here with positivity, and many of them do better than the local South Africans, because the local South Africans, many, not all, some of them are stooped in their own wallowing of self-pity. Many of the people that I speak to never even suffered apartheid. They were born after apartheid, yet they are the greatest of components and proponents against white people having never suffered under the rulership of apartheid. It doesn't make sense. And the interesting thing is, whenever I speak to these individuals, they are possessed by the same ideology. They say the same things. They don't have an original thought. They will spew out the same statements, the same arguments, and they are utopian arguments that you cannot even argue against if they happen. But many times these things don't even happen. They are just bullshit stories to highlight a point of a reality that, if it did exist, how terrible it would be, yet it doesn't exist, and that's why it's not as terrible as you make it out. But it exists to them, so they live in this lie and this possession of their ideology that has entrapped them, and the more that they blame everybody else, the more they empower everybody else. I'm the most powerful person in the world in their eyes, and they despise me for it, but they're giving me the power. I don't even have it. I'm a white person. Because I'm white, they suffer. Because I have less pigment in my skin, purely because that is evident in me, like Superman, suddenly they have no power. I am all powerful, I am all evil, and it's just because the color of my skin is white. I promise you this, you are selling yourself short, and you are praising me too highly. I am nowhere nearly as powerful as you think I might be, and I'm certainly not interested in keeping you down. I don't like poor people. I think there should be no poor people, and the remedy to get rid of poor people is not to get rid of them, it's to get rid of their poverty. I wish, like many South Africans, black, white, Indian, colored, that there was no poverty and that we could get rid of poverty so that everybody in this country could do well. But your hateful ideology does not allow it, because the only way we're going to do it is to cooperate with each other, because there is value in Africa as a black person. There is value in Africa as a colored person. There is value in Africa as an Indian person and even an Asian person. And yes, believe it or not, there is value that even the European white honky folk like myself actually can bring to this country. The competence that comes with the Industrial Revolution that manifests in the European countries, primarily brought to Africa, is what gives you running water, sewage, bricks to build your houses, and roads, for goodness sake. That's all brought to you by Europe. Why do you despise it so much? You don't want what we have. You want us to have what you have, suffering. How selfish is that? You are not even suffering nearly as much as many other people in the country and in the world are suffering. You didn't even suffer apartheid. Are you just ungrateful? Would you rather go to Zambia? Would you rather go to Zimbabwe? Would you rather go to Nigeria? Go, damn it, if you think it's so much better where the white people are all absent for some miraculous way and reason. But no, they're flocking to South Africa because things are better here than there. Not because of the white people, but not in spite of them either. If we can cooperate together, Siya Kolisi, the Springbok rugby side, what did they say? Look what we can do together. The fact that we're not is what's creating a lot of the problems. Black or white, we have red blood. We are just as good and just as evil as each other. That's kind of my thought process on all of that. So, hit the bell. I don't know what that means. Subscribe, like. share. Don't know what the little bell thingy is, but hit the little bell thingy. That's apparently the YouTube thing to do.